Okay, so we're back again. We are going to make the fruit mince pie as the second one while the fruit cake is baking. And we are going to start with making the shortbread pastry, and that will be the base for the fruit mince pie. After this, we are going to cook the fruits in that. Filling is like one gorgeous filling. You guys have to make that and to taste to know how exactly it is going to taste. You may feel like, okay, what is that? Fruits in a tart base. No, you have to actually do that, because after having to choose between a lot of different things, when I put all these four together, fruit mince pie is that one which is looking like an unsung hero. To me, that is the best out of all the four. All the four are the best, but fruit mince pie is my favorite out of all the four. Okay, so because the filling is just going to burst with the flavor of the spices, and the fresh fruits and the dried fruits together are going to cook for so long. Again, here we are going to cook for so long, and that is the second step that I will do. After that, like in the fruit cake, I'm going to allow it to get cooked, but in the meantime I have the fruits for the minced fruit pie filling that is already been cooked, and I have it, which I'm going to use to fill the tart. So I'm going to make the shortbread pastry first, and then cling wrap the pastry and send it to be in the freezer until the fruit is going to be cooked, which could take between 15 to 30 minutes. Obviously, for you to allow it to be in the freezer, 30 minutes will be ideal. I might take it a little before that. Then the pastry is going to be soft, but you want it to be quite firm to allow it to be rolled properly without sticking. After which we are going to line the tart pans and then fill it with the fruit filling and cover the top with again the shortbread pastry and decorate it with little leaves cut out of the pastry itself. Pastry is just the dough, the shortbread dough that we will be making. And then we are going to bake that at 160 degrees. First, to start with the pastry, I have the ingredients here. The flour is there in a bigger bowl. Okay, and then I'm just going to set this aside so you have a clearer image of what I'm doing. And then that is the butter, which is firm and then cut into cubes and kept in the fridge until ready for me to use. So I'm just putting in good amount of pressure, but still I'm just not able to press it, so it is not soft. You want it quite cold, and then you also want it to be cut into cubes. Now this I will add it. I'm going to use my fingers, okay, and I'm also going to add sugar, and then the salt. The leftovers are the egg and a little bit of water. So okay, salt, everything is added. Now I'm just going to use both my hands and the fingers, and I'm just going to put it in, use the tip of my fingers to break the butter. While I'm doing that, I also should combine the sugar and the flour together and then break the butter. Now the butter, what we're trying to do by this step is to combine the flour and the butter together with the sugar and the salt, of course, and to not melt the butter. So keeping the, now if I'm going to put this in the mixer or use your beater and then beat it, then with that heat, the butter will melt. But for this shortbread pastry, to have its right texture after baking, you shouldn't allow the butter to melt. So the butter is being cold and the butter should be coated with the flour. The butter should become smaller pieces. Now, while I'm doing that, I'm finding the bigger chunks of the butter. Okay, and I'm just using my tip of the finger to break the bigger chunks of the butter into smaller pieces. Now, what I'm going to aim at the end is to have crumb, the flour crumb, no bigger butter chunks, and the entire thing looks even, like the butter is evenly become smaller pieces, no bigger chunks, and the flour is coated evenly. So I'm just looking at no bigger chunks. So I'm feeling in with my fingers wherever there is bigger butter. Like you can't have a whole butter going out in the bowl, and then start adding next set of ingredients, which is the egg and a little bit of water. Both are going to bind. So now I'm looking for bigger chunks. So mostly whole thing is coming together. I don't see a lot of bigger chunks of butter. In case I had, I'm just going to break it. So what you have at the end is not a solid mass again. They are not going to be combined to a dough already. But if this was beaten using a hand beater or your KitchenAid, this would have been a dough already, which means the butter would be melted. And before the butter even begins to get the heat of my hands as I am preparing this, I have to put it back in the freezer and allow the butter to get back into its solid state again inside the pastry, which is the dough. Okay, so this is the crumbs. I'm just going to get it closer to the camera to show how these crumbs are. Now you can see there are no bigger chunks of the butter. Okay, and you can see it is just a powder crumbs. Okay, and now inside the center, I'm just going to make a well and add egg and the water. I'm just going to use my fingers and then bind this together. Now this is going to come together like a dough. I'm not going to knead it, but I'm just going to hold it to come together and make the dough. Now kneading it to make it like a smooth dough is something I will not do for this particular pastry, because that will melt the butter. So once everything comes together, okay. So this is what you're going to have. Not a properly smooth dough, but a dough that is just come together, but it can have these cracks. It doesn't have to be super smooth, but we are not going to make it super smooth only because we don't want the butter to melt. Okay, so now this has to be cling wrapped, right? I'm just going to wipe off my hands. And cling wrap, as I'm going to cling wrap, I want it to lay flat. So the chillness from the freezer will be transferred uniformly. I just want to flatten it out. Okay, so the bits of butter will just get hardened up again. And then wrap it from all sides, not leaving any gap. Okay, so this pastry is now ready, and I'm just going to don't do that, like, don't need to warm it up. Then now this will go into the freezer. Until now, I'm just going to start working on the filling, which is the fruit filling, right? So to have the fruit filling done, I need the induction stove to come in the middle, right, and a saucepan. Now the ingredients are right here. Now again, for the fruits, what I'm using here is apple, pineapple, and banana. Now for the fresh fruits, you could use the expensive ones here, like maybe the kiwis, avocados, and strawberries, and raspberries, and all that, depending on, the exotic fruits that are available in the season is also fine. But here I'm just trying to keep it as economical as possible, yet the flavor is not going to be beaten at all. So I prefer using these, but then the chunks, the sizes of the chunks that I have made are, quite small, because that will considerably reduce the cooking time. Okay. So you can see the pineapple, how it is cut, and then the apple cut into finer pieces, obviously banana, but they are going to be mashed, but then keeping the size of the fruits quite small. So cooking is just going to be a little faster. Obviously here, it is again going to take quite a good amount of time. Okay, so I'm adding the sugar first, and then the juice. After which I'm just going to switch on the stove. Now, once the juice combines with the sugar begins to melt, reducing the flame, especially because working with induction, you don't want the base to burn. And now, while the juice combines with the sugar at this stage, don't have to wait for the sugar to melt here, because that is not enough juice for the sugar to completely melt, and then also kind of avoid from burning. Now start adding the fresh fruits first. Pineapples, apples, and the banana. Ripe banana, obviously. Okay, so into this, I'm going to add the spices. Like I said, spices, these are homemade, starting with the whole spices, and then I ground it here. And now with the fruits getting in, you can see that the sugar is also melted quite well. And again, at this stage, add the dried fruits. And then mix. So once it comes to a boil, and then add vinegar, and then allow it to cook for 15 minutes, 20, 25 minutes as well. I'm just going to take it out and then keep showing you how the texture is and how this cooking is going to be. Now I'm also going to use a lid to close this and keep as we are cooking, because the fruits have to become softer, nice and soft, and for which, if the moisture in the mix, whatever is being cooked, if the moisture is not enough, then I need to cover it with a lid and allow the vapor to bounce back into the pan and let the fruits cook while not burning. So first let it come to a boil. And then there's vinegar here, which I need to add it in. So once I'm just going to add the vinegar, I'm going to set it aside and start preparing the tart pans and then keep it ready before I'm going to take the pastry out of the freezer. Well, also because the pastry needs a little more time in the freezer for it to firm up, so I could roll it without it sticking or even the butter not melting much. So it's just started to bubble up right now. At this stage, I'm going to add vinegar in. And now you put it aside while I'm just going to keep it for the camera to view and get the tart pans and prepare that. Okay, so I also have a lid. I'm just going to close this out and allow it to be on simmer. I'm just going to open it every now and then and to show the consistency and when we are going to stop using it. Okay, so in the meantime, I have the tart molds here. I'm just going to brush the inside of the, I have the butter here as well. I'm just going to brush it with butter and then flour it. Okay, so brushing with butter part is done. I'm just going to flour it as well. So that's a bowl of flour. I'm just going to add the inside with flour and then tap it around like how you would do to a cake pan. Okay, so let the flour coat the inside. This is important because after the tart is baked, you just want it to come out easily, right? You just don't want it to risk letting it break the tart. After the pie is baked, you don't want it to stick inside and okay. So I'm just going to check on the fruits. The lid is not the right size for this saucepan. So the water is just dripping out. I'm just going to put it back on fire. What you can see here, I'm just going to take it closer. You can see the juice or the sugar syrup is just in the liquid form, right? So this we have to reduce quite much. So I'm just putting it back. The fruits will become mushy and going to close it with the lid. I'll go check back again after say maybe 5 or 10 more minutes. Again, I'm continuing to dust the tart pan with flour, making sure the flour is coated on the butter properly, and then I'm going to tap it back. I'm just going to reduce the flame, keep it on simmer. Now you need to start slow cooking the fruits. While keeping the lid on it. You don't want a lot of moisture to evaporate from the fruit mix. Now this excess flour part is done, and I'm going to set this aside while you're going to continue cooking. The tart pans are prepared. I'm just going to set that aside while I already have the pastry come out of the freezer. So it's the same one that I had used, right? So I'm just going to use a Sultana and keep the excess flour with me, that I'm going to dust the counter. I'm just going to get the rolling pin. Okay, so remove this. So this is cold now. Now, if you're just going to keep it in the freezer for quite some more time, you might have to cut them into pieces because they will be quite firm, right? Okay, and then cut it into smaller chunks. So that will help you to knead this back into smoother dough, which is firm with the chunks of the butter, right? And now once it is cut into chunks like this, now start folding, start pinching the dough, the smaller chunks together. Just pinch the chunks separately. If it is firm, then at this stage you need to pinch the chunks separately and then put it together. Knead the individual chunks first. Now it is quite soft for me because it has been staying in the freezer right through in the life. Like when I finished, it went in, and now I started preparing the fruits. And then, okay, so you have that beautiful pastry. Here, obviously the edges are not going to be smooth because we have not made a very smooth pastry, and that is how it should be. Now flour your counter quite well, okay, and flour on top of the dough as well. Also, in the meantime, I'm just going to go check out on the fruit. Okay. So you can see the liquid portion still remains. I'm just going to continue cooking this. Obviously, waiting for the fruit, the sugar syrup to completely go away. You're going to close it with a lid. It is going to stay all the time. So the second test that you need to do is to check for the doneness of the fruits, especially the pineapple, which will be quite hard, and you need to use a knife to check and cut it through to understand if it is cooked properly. So I'm just going to leave it on the simmer, and now coming back to the pastry, I'm just going to make sure it's not stuck to my silk pack, rolling it to 2 mm thick pastry sheet. If the top is sticking to the rolling pin, dust the top with flour. Okay, it is quite cold now. And then I have 2 sizes of the rings. Okay, so this one size of the ring will be for the top covering, and that fits in the top. Okay, so this will go for the top, and then excess I will be cutting it out. So this size is a bigger one that will be used to line the bottom and then the sides as well. So you choose a ring that is quite big enough, little bigger than the tart pan. And first, so I'm just going to use that to cut 4 of the bigger sized rings. Okay, so this excess, first I'm just going to remove and keep it aside, which I will roll it back again to use it for the top, right? Let me just set the excess aside. Now I'm just going to pick out the prepared tart pan and gently pick the pastry and drop it carefully into the tart pan and start folding in from one side, folding in and then tucking it in. Fold it first and then tuck it in. Okay, and once it goes inside with the folds like that, okay, and then start pressing on the sides. Start pressing on the sides and the bottom as well. Press on the side. And when you're pressing wherever there is folds, there will be excess which you can remove off, trim the excess. Now here use your fingers and then press it around on the sides. So the tart pan's shape will be there when you're going to remove. So you want that shape to be properly fitting in. Okay, and also this bottom, go around here and then press it in. Now that just have to cut the excess out. So I'm just going to use a knife and then cut the excess, leveling it to the height of the tart pan, right? So this tart mold is done. The bottom is done. After this, the step to prepare is to use a fork and then make holes, and that is going to help it bake, letting the steam out, and so the bottom of the pastry will not puff up while baking. So making this holes part is also important. So once you are done with this step, then it is ready for the filling to go. Now one of it is done. Now I'm just going to start doing the same thing for the rest of the tart molds, tucking it in, folding and tucking it in, and then pressing on the sides and then the bottom. Use the thumb and press the inside and then the sides. Press the bottom, then the sides. Use a knife and cut the excess to the level of the tart rings rim, right? And then use a fork and then dock it. pressing it in, and then the bottom with the thumb to make sure you are properly demarking the place where the bottom of the tart ends. So you have a nice shape when you are taking it out, and press on the sides and trim the excess. And use a fork. Then the last one I have. Pressing the folds first, use the thumb to go in and demark the bottom. Then press on the sides to get the shape, and then use the knife to cut it out, excess. And then dock using the fork and then poking the holes so the steam escapes and the center doesn't puff up. So I have all the 4 of the tart pans prepared. Now I have, I'm this way I will use it now. So I'm just going to, in the meantime, check, switch it off, and then check if you going to show the consistency. Now, going to check for the consistency of the doneness of the fruit, for which I'm just going to use a knife and then go cut and see how mushy the fruits have become. Okay, so they are quite soft at this stage. Okay, they are very mushy and they are not very hard like the pineapple. I'm just not able to even figure out which is the pineapple or which is the apple chunks now. So this is the fruit, right? But that little bit of the liquid that remains, what I'm going to do, put it back on the flame, I mean the heat, and allow it to cook for maybe 2 more minutes, 3 more minutes on the low flame only, just to remove that liquid out, because I just want it to be mushy and without too much liquid. And that is what I will be using to fill the tart pans, right? So when that gets done, okay, now let me use the cooked fruits. So this obviously after making has to cool down, and once it cools down it is ready to go. And this is the version after cooling down what you are supposed to have. I'm just going to take it closer and then show. So this is what it will be after it is cooled down completely. This thickness has to be there, and that will come only when you are getting rid of all the liquid. So first allow the fruits to get cooked completely and get mushy, after which remove the lid and allow it to cook for some more time. Once you have all the moisture, most of the moisture, like stickiness has to be there, but flowing liquid from the cooked fruits should be removed. So you can see that the flowing liquid is done, is not there, but what you have here is the fruits that is cooked and coated with the sauces, whatever we have used, the fruit juice and the sugar and all that is just coated together with the spices. Now allow that to cool. I'm just going to let that cool down, after which I'm just going to store it in an airtight container overnight in the refrigerator. Now coming back here, so this is the cooked fruit that I have, which was made, and now I'm just going to add it inside. I'm just going to check how much I would be needing. Okay, so take a tablespoonful and then add it in. So you just need to have it filled up till the rim. First, I'm just going to take a tablespoonful. And if it is less, I'm going to refill it. So it just needs to come to the rim. So this, I feel it is a little lesser. I'm just going to add it here in it. Okay, and now on top of this, we are going to again roll the pastry out and cover the top. Now for which I'm just going to get the silk pad. Silicone mat is also fine to use. I'm just going to put it on the side. Now this is the leftover dough, right? Gently kneading it a little bit more. And then using the flour. And then some flour on the top, flatten it out. Don't knead it so much again. I mean, it is okay for it to look cracking and a bit dry because it's been lying out since we've started, filling it in the tart mold. Two mm thick. Make sure the rolling is even. Just need 4. I'm just going to also have excess from what I'm going to use on top. Let me use that as well. I'm just going to seal the top. Now, before sealing, I just need milk because you want this pastry to stick onto the edges. Okay, so you could use milk or you could also use egg wash. I'm just going to get the egg. Now, in the meantime, let me roll this excess and get one more circle. So without the egg wash, you cannot stick the top. It is not going to hold together. It is sticking. Okay, so I have all the 4 circles cut for the top. I'm also going to have a little saved for the leaf. Okay, now so I have mixed milk and egg together here. Okay, so I'm just going to use a pastry brush and let me just keep it here so the visual is better. So I'm just going to use egg and milk together. You could use just the eggs, just the milk. Using egg wash, then on the outside of the covering also we will be doing egg wash. Having egg wash gives a very brown color. The golden brown is very beautiful, which you don't get it in the milk wash. So brushing the edges properly because you want the entire thing to come as one piece, right? You don't want the lid alone to open up and then be like separate piece after baking. So make sure this is going to act like a glue. So brushing on the edge. To have it around properly so it doesn't open up as a separate piece is important. So once that step is done, I'm just going to put the pastry on top and press it down at the edge. Now here again, there will be excess which will be pinched out. Okay, so the excess here will be just pinched out using your fingers. So remove all the excess and clean up the sides, and that way also make sure you're pressing it here so the pastry, both the pastries are stuck well, and then they come together as a single pie out. Okay, so the excess will be stored, whatever I've taken will be stored. Now I'm just going to press down and remove the excess. While pressing down and removing the excess itself, it would stick. Okay, but then just to be sure, once I've just removed the excess, I'm going to go around and then press on the outside edge. So removing excess is very important. So the shape after baking looks quite neat. Okay. So after removing excess, use your fingers and then press out. Okay. So the last one. And then again, I'm just going to use the leftover pastry to roll it back again for cutting out the leaves, because I'm just going to make it look Christmassy, right? Just make sure it's not sticking back as you're rolling. I'm just going to use the cutter and cut out 12 of the leaves. I'm just going to use 3 leaves per tart. I have 5 already, and 6th one, 7th, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12. So the leftovers, maybe I could use a bigger cutter and then cut it out and then make the shortbread cookie. And then in that way, again, what will happen, we might have to, you know, kind of keep removing and then cutting out, right? So I'm just going to put it aside, but I'm just going to tell you what you could do. Just make balls and then just press it out. So that way you're just not going to have wastage at all. This you can just taste and see. Like it could be a taste tester, like is that sugar enough? Or maybe, you know, shall I add a little more salt and all that? So you can just test how your shortbread pastry is. So this is just an idea how you can use the leftover. You can just roll it and then use cutters and do, and whatever is finally left over, then you can make discs like this. I'm just going to leave it aside, which I'm just going to make and not waste that excess pastry there. Here, now I'm just going to get the tart pans here, and now on top of this I'm going to get the milk and egg wash. Okay, once I've done that part, then on top of that, because again these leaves have to stick, right? So for which you obviously need that glue. So I'm just placing the leaves facing 3 directions, opposite or equally facing in 3 different directions. Okay, I'm keeping 3 because I'm just cutting down on the time. Also, I wanted to look Christmassy for that reason. Otherwise, I would do leaves going around and play around with decorating the fruit mince pie very close to how I would really wanted to decorate for the Christmas, right? And then again, you want that leaf to brown properly. So brushing on top of that, giving an egg, a milk wash, or a mix of milk and egg, like I'm using. Only egg wash is quite fine as well. You want that leaf also to brown, but then brush it and make the egg of the milk wash even throughout. And this will be going on to a prepared baking tray. I have a bigger pan into which I'm just going to place these in for. Okay, also send this in with a maybe a cutout butter paper that can go into the oven and now get baked for about 20 to 22 minutes until you have the top properly golden brown. Okay, so this is what we are going to take it out of the oven and then check how it is going to come out. So that is going to take some time. Did we reach the lunch time, right? So you're done with 2. So once this comes out of the oven, I'm going to show everything at the end. What we bake today is what we will see. So we have the fruit pie baked, and what you can see is these cute shortbread cookies. I'm just going to bake and show. You can see that snap of that cookie. Okay, maybe I'll just get closer to the cam. Okay, snap it, and it is like quite crisp and nice. Okay, so these are tasters that you can use, and I just get some plates in to remove the fruit pie. That's ready, and put it in the plate. Now I'm just going to see if it is going to come out of the tart mold easily. I don't want to break it. Now, if it is easy, then I will gently remove it. It comes out clean. Now, if it doesn't, then I will just use a knife to go and release whichever part is maybe stuck. Okay. So let me just try to remove this part. Hopefully it is stuck in any one of the edge or something. Trying to gently remove. If it comes out clean, nice, right? I'm just going to unmold whatever was sent out for baking. Obviously, not break. Use a knife to release it. So that one edge was sticking, you can see. And so the last one. You see, it is like already stuck. If I know it is stuck, then I can just release it also from the outside. Okay, so coming out clean and just keeping it in the tray. Take the mince pie and keep it on this plate. I'm just going to go in. Okay, so you can see the filling is just beautifully sitting inside, like inside a house, and the other half as well has the filling beautifully inside. Okay, and when you're going to eat it, you use a fork or even a spoon to go on and break together with some of the filling, and this will be a mouth, like a very tiny bit of the mouth where it just goes with the short bread pastry and the fruit filling. Another whole mouth also is like breaking the entire pastry from the top. Okay, and this whole thing together will be a mouthful. Okay, this together with a gooey fruit filling and the short bread pastry is beautifully done, and we have a lovely texture.